Yeah, I shaved that last week, huh? I guess when you're around it every day, you just don't notice the little things. Well, what's funny is when you shave your beard, everybody says, you grew a mustache.
No. Just shaved everything around it.
And that, hey, this is coming off eventually. I just get tired of it. I keep changing it because my dad wore a beard for years. He shaved it off. And it was like, oh my gosh, you put it back on.
Yeah.
And so I don't want anybody to get used to my face a certain way.
Shoot, if I could grow a full beard really thick, I'd do it.
I told Richard he looks like ZZ Top sitting back there. He says so, that it's breaking that like breaks off. It has to put more oil on it or something. I never heard of that.
That's way too much trouble.
Yes, for sure. You got all your signals worked out? Don't do that.
I know. We'll call, it's 6 o'clock, so we'll call to order the City of Douglasville's legislative work session for tonight, May the 13th. The invocation will be done by Pastor Gene Fields of One Church. Is Pastor Fields here? Oh, there he is. You look like a young man right there, Pastor Fields.
I will sit here all the time.
It's good to see you. So we'll have the invocation by Pastor Fields, and after that, the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by the Mayor Pro Tem. Please stand for the invocation.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, it's a privilege and an honor to be able to come before you, especially in this setting, Father, and we do not take that lightly. Father, we acknowledge that all things come from you, Father, and if they come from you, they're good, and part of that good is being a part of this community, Father. Father, I take it a privilege to have lived here all of my life, and Father, I'm thankful that I'm surrounded by a community of people who love this community and have passion for that. And Father, part of that is our mayor and our city council. Father, I pray for them tonight. I pray for your wisdom to fill this room, Father, and that we all see this community with your heart and your eyes. Father, we just, again, thank you for the privilege and the honor to be able to be here tonight. Father, I pray for those first responders that are protecting us and taking care of us. And Father, I ask protection over them. Again, Father, we just invite you into this room. And Father, we love you and thank you for loving us. In your holy name I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Pastor Fields. We appreciate you doing the invocation. We have our announcements and presentations. And we'll do a presentation first, and then I'll go over the protocol for the meeting this evening. There is a recognition of the 2021 Historic Preservation Award winners for the downtown Douglasville area, and that will be presented by our Community Affairs Director, Ms. Patrice Williams.
Patrice Williams, Community Development, 6701 Church Street. I have the honor to giving out these awards tonight. The City of Douglasville and the Historic Preservation Commission host an annual award banquet each year. Due to the continued precautions, the Historic Preservation Commission will not be hosting our annual banquet. The Historic Preservation Commission proudly recognizes the following individuals, but before I introduce them, I want to make sure I introduce our Preservation Commission, Historic Preservation Commission. Some of my favorite people here in Douglasville, they're with us tonight. We have Ms. Pat Smith, our chair, Mr. Dennis Conley, Mr. Phil Wynn is not here yet, I guess, and then Ms. Elaine Penley-Sears. So thank you all for joining us tonight.
We have icons in the audience.
We do. We do. So our first award is the Donald Bennett Award. This award goes to an individual who has committed their time and their resources to the efforts of preservation within the city of Douglasville. This individual, I love her to death. She served on the Downtown Development Authority. She's also worked closely with the Chamber of Commerce and the CAC. She always had my back and always made sure we had our money straight. And she is committed to downtown Douglasville and preserving our history here. That individual is Miss Donna Cox.
Thank you.
Would you like to say anything, Ms. Cox?
You know, I do have to say that volunteering saved me.
Aw.
It's, everybody needs to be needed, and that is one way you can definitely be needed. And thank you very much.
Oh, congratulations.
All right, our second award, Commercial Preservation Award, is awarded to a commercial property owner, our owners who have significantly improved their commercial property within the calendar year through renovation, rehabilitation, or restoration. This award goes to Miss Melissa Crumbly. She is located at 12349 Veterans Memorial Highway.
Is she here?
Oh, she's
There
here.
she is. What's the name of the business, Miss Patrice?
It's currently a rental property in downtown Villa Rica, or
wow.
Douglasville, excuse me.
She's located right next to the old Western Alto.
Oh,
She redid
yes.
that building.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Would you like to say anything, or you
Just thank
you
y'all.
want to thank the Academy? You're welcome.
Thank y'all very much.
You're welcome.
All right, and then our final award is the Maintenance Preservation Award. It's awarded to a resident or commercial property owner or owners who have worked diligently at maintaining their historic district property. This property was built in 1960. It is cute as it can be. It's next door to Mitchell Appliance. The address is 6689 East Strickland Street, and it's Miss Holly Illich. She's here with us.
I just wanted to say thank you for this award and for the recognition. And fun fact, it was actually built about 85 years ago. And it's just been, I guess, was originally restored in 1960. So,
Wow.
but thank you.
You're welcome. Congratulations. Well, all the awardees, please come forward. And the HPC Commission, we've been vaccinated, but we're going to make a photo, as they say, get our picture made. Put or not have the mask. It's up to you.
Just as close as everyone feels comfortable getting. smile from everyone and just hold. I'm going to take a few. Thank you, everyone.
I know, that's exciting. So I'll go over our protocol for the meeting this evening, and then we'll follow the agenda that is printed either on the screen, or you can have a paper agenda from outside. I would like to welcome you to the Douglasville City Council Legislative Work Session. My name is Rochelle Robinson. I'm mayor of the city of Douglasville, and we are still in COVID-19 protocol until the end of the month. And we'll see if Governor Kemp extends the requirements. But this is an open meeting of the Douglasville Mayor and City Council. Is being conducted by teleconference and in person, consistent with the official code of Georgia, annotated section 50-14-1G, due to emergency conditions involving public safety in order to mitigate the transmission of the coronavirus and to reduce the risk of COVID-19 illness. That section, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows for local governments to meet in whole or in part by teleconference in the event of emergency, so long as means are afforded for the public to have simultaneous access to the teleconference meeting. For this meeting, we are convening partially by Zoom software, as shown on the city's website, describing how the public may join, which is via YouTube media platform. Assistant City Manager, Ms. Chelsea Jackson, do we have anyone on? We do have people teleconference, and we'll just have the chairperson at that time recognize those individuals. Thank you so much. This is a work session where agenda items are presented for discussion and no official action will be taken tonight. Official action will be taken on these items discussed tonight on Monday at 6 p.m. If the business you are here for is not listed as an agenda item, there will be ample time under the agenda item comments from citizens and delegates section for you to discuss your business. Just a few more points we'll make, and then we'll get into the meeting. I would ask that you would please keep your comments and presentations on a professional level, dealing with the facts that are important for this governing body to make our decisions. We will not accept comments that are considered by the chair to be of a personal attack on any individual or group of individuals, and you'll receive a warning from the chair, and if you deviate from this requirement, a second deviation will result in you discontinuing to speak this evening. Only one person speaking at a time. Please do not applaud or react to speakers or speak from the audience or carry on conversations while you're directing your comments to the chair. In saying that, we would ask that you would please direct all of your comments to the chair, and that person will direct or give you instructions if you have anything to pass out or any additional materials. If you have printed materials, please give those to our Assistant City Clerk, who is located in the back. And if you have a cell phone or electronic device, we'll ask that you please put those in silent mode or turn those off until after the meeting so they will not be disruptive. Now the agenda items will be handled as the following. The committee chairperson will read the agenda item, and then that person representing the agenda item or applicant will make his or her presentation. This will be your first opportunity, and we ask that you would give all your information at that time. Myself and council members will possibly ask clarifying questions to help us understand better to make our decision on next Monday. After that, the chairperson will ask for comments or statements from the audience. There is a maximum of 20 minutes per side, 20 minutes for those in support of that item and 20 minutes for those in opposition. And each person has 5 minutes. If you have more than 4 or 5 people, you can split up your time for 3 minutes a person, but in totality, you only have 20 minutes for each side. And there's no repeat persons coming forward. And there is a speaker card that you should have filled out, and you have that card to our Assistant City Clerk, and or you can talk online, and you should have filled out something, a registration form online. Okay, when you please come forward, please give your name and address for the record. And again, if there is something that is not germane to the agenda, if you would want to talk about that later, you can come up after for citizens and delegates' comments, and you can talk at that point. This is not a question and answer or debate format. We're just really here to receive the information. And again, we'll ask that we not repeat if one person has already said, made a point about that particular issue. I know that's a whole lot of talking, but hopefully everyone understands how the meeting will go this evening. Now we'll move on with the agenda the way it is printed. And again, there should be an agenda on the screen and/or there are paper agendas out on the desk. So we'll move on now to Economic Development Committee, and that's chaired by Mayor Pro Tem Terry Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business under the Economic Development Committee at this time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We'll move on then to Finance Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Mark Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business tonight in finance.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to item number 7, which is Housing and Community Affairs Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Dr. LaShun Danley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business tonight under Housing and Community Affairs.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Legislative and Intergovernmental Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Samuel Davis.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Mayor, I have one item, and I'm going to start with item A, authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with the Douglas County Board of Commissioners and Douglas County Tax Commissioner for collection of ad valorem taxes. Ms. Callan, please. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Karin Callan, Finance Director, 6695 Church Street, Douglasville. What you have before is the contract between the city and Douglas County for billing and collections of our property tax bills. And I think we discussed this a little bit at our our budget workshop, and it's just easier for the citizens to get one bill, and it is a lot less expensive this way than it would be to bring it in-house.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ms. Callan and I, we had conversation about this item, and I'd like to put it back on the agenda for Monday for further discussions, if anyone want to discuss it.
Okay. The chairman has asked, do we have any questions as it relates to this item from council members? It looks good, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, well, I put it on the consent agenda for Monday, if council pleasure. Thank you, Ms. Callan.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
That's all I have, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir. We'll move on then to item number 9, which is Personnel and Organization Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have 2 items tonight, Personnel Organization. Item A, to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Quantum Radiology PC to provide mobile mammographic services on May 18, 2021. Ms. Allston-Bing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
This item before you is an agreement for our upcoming health fair on Tuesday, May 18th, where we will provide mobile mammography services with Quantum through Northside Hospital to provide our employees, their dependents, as well as the community an opportunity to receive mammography services here in downtown Douglasville, where we will have our health fair. It's a mobile van. We'll be taking, they will be taking major insurance cards for appointments, and this agreement will allow us to move forward with doing that ahead of our health fair for Tuesday. Any question that you have about Quantum I can take, or the health fair itself, but this will allow us to move forward.
Thank you, Ms. Allston-Bing. Anybody have any comments? Or yes, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Good to see you, Ms. Allston-Bing.
Thank you, Mayor.
After the mammograms are done, are they provided, sent to your primary care physician, your gynecologist, or whichever, if you're WellStar, whomever, Tanner?
Yes, ma'am, that's a great question. So in order to actually have the screening services, the employee or the dependent or the community member would need a copy of their orders from their physician, and then Quantum will send those directly to those doctor's offices or, providers that the orders came from. So it's pretty instant as well. I've had it done several times over the past few years, and it's a great service.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Allston-Bing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I had.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Anyone else? Any questions? Ms. Allston-Bing, this isn't the first time the city has done this, right?
No, this is about our third time, I want to say, maybe even fourth time, but we like to do this every year. It's convenient and to bring these type of health services on site for our employees just to be able to pop in. We've signed these agreements in the past as well.
Okay, well, I think it's a great service to our employees, and we've had pretty good participation in the past on this.
We've been fortunate enough to fill all of our slots, appointment slots.
Great.
Over the past few years, so.
Okay, well, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I'd like to place this on the consent agenda for Monday. We have another item. Item B, adopt an ordinance to amend the city's personnel policies and procedures and administration code to clarify the reporting procedures of employees' complaints of personnel issues. And Ms. Allston-Bing will take this one also.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Chairman. This item before you, you should have a red line version that was completed by our staff attorney, Ms. Woodward, as well as a final version. Some of it is housekeeping as far as clearing up grammatical errors, but the main issue behind this edit is to drive the chain of command and have clear processes and reporting procedures for our employees as it relates to three areas: discipline, grievances, and harassment complaints. For discipline, we do have a progressive discipline process right now that is escalated up the chain of command, and the final decision-making will rest with the city manager. For our grievances, we want to be clear on this process. Again, having the city manager as the final decision-maker, but the Human Resources Department to begin that process of fact-finding and presenting that information if need be, to the city manager. And then harassment complaints, also clearing this up. Before, there was language in there where the city manager would be investigating those, which should rest with Human Resources as the investigating department. And so we want to make sure that that's clear, there's no gray. Employees have a clear idea of how to go about reporting any of those three up the chain of command, and to ensure that HR language is added as the capacity of the investigations, as being the investigating capacity and not the city manager. So we wanted to be very clear. Also want to point out that elected officials, your authority is still selecting and hiring and separation of appointed officials. That will not change, but to make sure that those processes are spelled out for employees and driving that chain of command.
Thank you, Ms. Allston-Bing. Any questions or comments from, yes, Madam Mayor?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Were you finished?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I'm good.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Allston-Bing. So this is part of their PPO, and each employee will have an opportunity to read the new version that is not red line that we approve, and sign a consent form or a form of understanding that they know the process. So typically what we would do when we have a major update to the PPP that affects employees' rights, we will send that out to all of our employees. Also within our new hires and in our new hire process, we do get acknowledgments. We can still do that as well for our current employees. But what we have done is to make sure that we send those updates out citywide, and to make sure we point the reference of where to find that. We also add those to our local drives for access as well. And then we will ask the directors, managers to print those for anyone that does not have easy access to their email or does not have normal access to an email like other office individuals would do. So we're kind of covering it in all areas, but any acknowledgments, especially for new hires that don't have an idea of the process or have not been here for a while, we do get their signed signature on those changes, and that they know how to find the city's policies and procedures.
Okay, now I did have a couple of questions. I'm not certain if this is for city manager or not, but with the directors, with the elected body, I know you said something about appointments, and so, of course, each council person has a committee, and that director kind of reports to the council person and the elected body, and how does all that work?
Well, you all are still responsible for the hiring and firing of appointed staff, but as far as reporting duties
from an operational standpoint, that still reports to the city manager.
Mhm.
The clarity in the PPP really is for the purposes of reporting grievances.
Mhm.
The issue is that when employees oftentimes report grievances to you all, if you look in the PPP, there are timestamp dates on when we have to take action on items. So if they're reporting it to you all, it actually ties up time and actually can put us into certain issues with litigation.
Mhm.
And we've actually had that come up where the employee says,
Yeah.
well, I reported it to someone at the city and it happens to be an elected official rather than HR, who is the official body to do the investigation. So for clarity purposes, we're making certain that Human Resources is the investigative department, making certain that employees understand and know that that's where they're to report the grievances. We're also acknowledging for appointed staff individuals that you all are still the ultimate authority on hiring and firing those individuals, but as far as the managing and the day-to-day, that's the responsibility of the city manager. And any grievances that any employee would have against myself, that would be investigated by the Human Resources Department and reported to you all.
Okay, so it doesn't preclude them from coming to myself, like I always say to the employees when I meet with different departments and the elected body, that, you know, I have an open door, so.
I think it should, per what's in the charter. If you look at the reference in the PPP, you all may want to get the attorney's advice. But in the PPP, it is directed that employees should report to the city manager.
Yeah.
My recommendation would be that you all not get involved in those issues with grievances with employees, just based on litigation that we've recently had. I understand the, the responsibility of wanting to take interest, but I do think it puts you all in a very precarious situation, particularly when the charter specifically states about the involvement of elected officials and staff.
Okay, it's going to be a change of culture because even though we know that we ultimately, hire and fire and the city manager does the day-to-day operations, it's been kind of a family atmosphere when, employees feel like they can come and talk to the elected officials. And we represent the community and the citizens, so it's just going to be a little bit difficult to kind of change the way we've been doing things for a long. Not that we would, go beyond, but I know you don't want us to be convoluted and get into those situations
And
a lot
I
of
think
times.
you all have done a good job that when an employee approaches you all come to me. The key issue is the key concern that I have is that it just completely removes you all out of the process because the charter specifically states that you shouldn't be involved in the process.
Yeah.
That way it doesn't get you caught up in a deposition or having any knowledge. And we have a process by which every quarter I come to you all and talk about personnel issues. So you get abreast of those things as well. But for me, for your own protection, I would advise that you not get involved in those types of issues at all. And if you're approached by an employee, my recommendation would be that they go immediately to Human Resources to report any type of claim.
Okay, and we set policy.
Yes, ma'am.
Do the day-to-day. I know that's a lot of talking, Mr. Chairman. You're looking at me.
That's
like-
okay. No,
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay.
I like clarity and
Yes, sir.
appreciate city manager giving us clarity on this
Thank you.
and Ms. Allston-Bing. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
I have a comment.
Yes, I'm
Chairman
sorry.
Watts. Oh, no, you didn't overlook me, I just asked. Yes, I would like to say that just as an atmosphere, Madam Mayor, I do agree with you, it's always been family. However, your staff know they can always talk to us. However, if I had a staff come to me immediately, my first question to them would be, have you followed protocol? I've always adhered to our city manager making the report. So if someone came to me, it would always be, did you follow protocol? And I'd say to them, my report will be to the city manager. I encourage you to do the same. So it doesn't just close the door.
Yeah.
And vice versa, because we do represent our constituents, and if our constituents have a complaint against an employee,
Yeah.
then there again, same thing, report it to the city manager, and then definitely deal with that on that end as well.
Sometimes they want to be anonymous. They fear, repercussions or something.
And that's where HR comes involved. HR is typically, unless it's a staff member in HR, that's their protection. And that's in the corporate world as well.
Yeah.
HR is the primary contact, and it removes, the new language removes myself out of that as well, especially since I'm the appeals individual. I try to stay out of those types of discussions until it's brought to me where I have to make a decision to make certain that I'm viewing it from a fair lens. Because again, sometimes those report comes from people who directly report to me. So in order to be able to be objective for that employee and the director, I turn that completely over to human resources.
It just, I guess the point I'm getting is if we're listening, because we want to be there for them, and we anything that we could say in sympathy, or just it could be misconstrued and then, like you say, be involved
And used
in
against you.
litigation.
Can be used against, yes. And really, and I'll say this as well, you know, regardless of the complaint, HR is there to investigate the day-to-day. You all are not there with the day-to-day, so you're hearing from one individual and you're not hearing from the other side. So regardless of and if the person is typically appealing to you, there's a reason they're not at HR. So I just suggest that, as I always say.
One other comment, unless an employee feels like that no one's listening.
Correct. And there's a process for that as well.
There's a process, right.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Yes.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think what staff is asking us to do is follow the rules.
Right.
Yeah.
As the rule book is written, and if we don't, then we could be out of bounds.
And I say protection for the citizens and
There
everybody,
you go.
because it costs the city a ton of money. And we have to go through legal issues and allegations. And if there is an issue, we have had employees go to EEOC. We deal with those things as well. But as best that we can follow our own doctrine that is written, it saves us a lot of time and money.
Thank you.
And protects the citizens.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, with all that being said, I'd like to place this, if it's appropriate, on this, for the consent agenda on Monday with this particular. Okay, thank you.
I see some nods and heads.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. That's all I had tonight under personnel and organization.
Thank you so much, Coach Watts. We'll move on then to item number 10, which is Planning and Development Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Mark Adams. This is a long docket that we have for this committee, and so we may have to take a recess in between, like when you go to the theater on Broadway, you have to take a recess, but we'll see. Hopefully we can get through everything. And I will say, Ms. Williams, you don't have to say Patrice Williams, 6695 Church Street, so for every.
Why not?
Because we know it's Patrice. I mean, the first one she can say it, but it's all the way up to P, and there's only Z in the alphabet. So if you just say it one time, Patrice Williams, 6595 Church Street, then we'll. But I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Chairman, and not get into your committee. The chair of this committee, Planning and Development Committee, is Councilmember Mark Adams. I need to give you a minute.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
We'll start Planning and Development Committee tonight. It will be a long time. I believe Madam Mayor has already given us the protocol and the time frames involved, so we'll start with a public hearing. That first item, hold a public hearing and consider a request for a variance to reduce the required 50-foot front setback in Section 504B of the Unified Development Ordinance for a variance of 6 feet for a remaining requirement of 44 feet on the north side of a lot of 24.282 acres at 1700 North River Road, Land Lot 173, District 1, Section 5, Tract D, Book 41, page 93. Application by Mr. Brian Cardoza of Rooker Riverside, LLC. Ms. Williams?
Patrice Williams, Community Development Director, 6701 Church Street. The applicant is requesting a variance. In this case, the strict compliance with the UDO results in a hardship for the applicant. There are a number of challenges due to the topography and grading of the site. There are no residential properties adjacent to the property. According to the applicant, without the proposed variance, the building shape would be irregular and not preferred rectangular shape. The project is speculative. The Riverside West Business Park has been designed to accommodate 9 to 10 industrial facilities on over 500 acres. The request is pursuant to a city-initiated rezoning approved by City Council, Mayor and City Council on January 13, 2020. We do have the applicant with us tonight for follow-up questions.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. If the applicant would like to come forward and make their presentation, as I said, Madam Mayor has already given her information as to protocol, and we'll look forward to hearing from the applicant and then have comments from the council and Madam Mayor if needed. How are you this evening, sir?
Hey, good evening. Brian Cardoza, representing Rooker Riverside LLC, 445 Bishop Street, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318. I won't repeat what Patrice just read in essence of the time, but I think you heard our request. It's for a variance for a small portion of a building we plan to build within our park. And I brought a visual here that I can point to it if you are so inclined to look at it. But it's about a 70 square foot section on the front right corner of our building. What we're wanting to do is keep it rectangular to have a similar look of other buildings in the park and in the area. As Patrice did mention, the topo, we are trying to stay out, we have to stay out of the creeks and the buffers. The one buffer that we creep into is the building setback. So that's our request, is for this variance.
Thank you, Mr. Cardoza. I had asked the question when I met with staff about this earlier in the week, if there was a amount of square footage in relation to the size of the building that could be quoted, and of course that you've shown that on your attachment here. This 50-foot setback, and you're needing a variance of 6 feet. Can you, I'm looking at track D, that is the track, correct?
That's correct.
On 24.282 acres. In relation to the street, I do not see, and maybe I just haven't paid attention to it yet, but I'm looking for how that affects, is it the setback from the street itself on that one corner?
It is street side.
Okay, and you are down next to the cul-de-sac, almost at the property in the cul-de-sac, correct?
I'll do this first.
Okay.
Aerial for y'all to see. This is Riverside Parkway.
Mm-hmm.
Riverside Parkway here. The site is in the back.
So you're almost to the end of North River Road and the cul-de-sac there.
I'm going all right. Gotcha. Thank you.
So it sits in the back.
Mm-hmm.
70 square feet approximately. Okay.
And the area we're talking about is on North River Road. It's this corner here.
So if you drove down North River Road, you would be at the far end, that
Far end,
corner.
be the far end of
Okay.
the building. That's
Okay.
correct.
And it appears from the look of your rendering there that you're basically trying to locate the building in the straight part of North River just before it makes its final turn and goes to the cul-de-sac.
That's correct.
Okay. Questions, comments, Madam Mayor or counsel of the applicant? This being a public hearing, I want to give every opportunity for everyone to speak. So if you all don't have any questions at this time, I will then open the public hearing for those that would like to speak either for or against this item. And if you would, please come forward, identify yourself, whether you are speaking for or against, and give us your name and address for the record. Is there anyone here that would speak for or against this item? There is no one, Ms. Williams, there's no one here that's been added that's here on virtually, correct? Okay, thank you. Seeing none, then we will close this portion of this item, close the public hearing, and we will take this up on Monday for consideration of the variance. Thank you, Mr. Cardoza. We'll move on to item B, hold a public hearing and consider a request for a special land use permit for warehousing or indoor storage on properties owned LI Light Industrial District, being approximately 24.282 acres at 1700 North River Road, land lot 173, District 1, Section 5, Track D. Book 41, page 93, application by Mr. Brian Cardoza of Rooker Riverside LLC. Madam Mayor, why do I have to say all of those the same thing again?
Because you have to read it. It's a public hearing.
Okay, just want to check. Go ahead, Ms. Williams.
I feel like I gotta say it. Patrice Williams, Community Development Director, 6701 Church Street. All right, this is the SLUP for item A. Mr. Cardoza needs the SLUP for a warehouse distribution center for an existing industrial park. As he said, it's speculative. It's in the Riverside West Business Park, along with the other projects that he has there, and so he just needs a SLUP.
Okay. Mr. Cardoza, do you have any information that you'd like to provide? Again, give us your name and address for the record, if you would, please.
Sure. Brian Cardoza, Rooker Riverside LLC, 445 Bishop Street, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318.
Okay.
This is the same site, same building, but this request is for the special land use permit on the 24 acres for approximately 205,000 square feet. I've been before you guys quite a few times over the years as we have developed this park, and we've just put our last phase of road in, which opened up this site for development. And as I've come before you guys in the past, we've had a chance to talk to you all offline as well as your citizens. And one of the things we've heard is the concern for traffic, the trucks in particular. And what we've done over the last couple of years as we've been hearing that is not only market for industrial warehouses, which is what we do as a company for the most part, but once we opened up this last phase, it opened up a couple other sites that we had been marketing for non-warehouse use. And we, thankfully, were very successful last December and again this February to sell 160 acres to Microsoft. That's important, we think, because what that does is it takes, one, it's a great corporate citizen for the park in this community. But two, it takes 2 million square feet of what we had planned to develop as warehouses. It takes that off the market. That translates to a lot of trucks. So now that this last phase has opened up, our hope is that we're coming to you with one of our smaller sites to build a 205,000 square foot spec building. We did also scale this building down by about 20,000 square feet. That's about as small as we could get to make the numbers work for us. So we've tried to listen to what you've said and what the citizens have said. And our hope is that this will be approved.
Okay. Hey, just out of curiosity, Mr. Cardoza, I'm familiar with the site, but I'm not familiar with how many tracks you would have remaining after the sale to Microsoft and after Track D is developed, after it's built upon. How many more lots are there on that street?
There's only 3. Only 3 left.
Okay, so there's 3 outside of what you've just closed with Microsoft.
Correct, and outside of this.
Okay.
Yes,
So,
sir.
okay.
Yes.
All right. Questions, comments of council? Madam Mayor, anyone? Okay. Again, this being a public hearing, we need to give opportunity to anyone that may be present. I do not see that we have anyone on virtually, but is there anyone here that would like to speak either for or against the project? Please come forward, give us your name and address for the record, and as we've said, Madam Mayor has given us your time limit. I believe it's 5 minutes each. Is that correct, Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir. 5 minutes per person and 20 minutes per side.
Thank you.
Thank you. Philip Sisk, 9905 Ardwick Greenway, Douglasville, and I do live in Tributary. And I'm not sure whether I'm speaking in favor or in opposition, because I do want to congratulate them on selling that property to Microsoft and putting the data center in there. At the same time, I hope they'll do their due diligence and not have to come back and ask for a variance to offset what's been set already. And I am in favor of a smaller warehouse over there that they're doing. So am I speaking in favor of or opposed?
You're cautiously
I'm
optimistic.
opposed to all warehouses on Riverside Parkway. I do favor a small warehouse more than a large one, so I guess that's good. And I could say, well, you know, the truck industry does move America. I'd just like to see those trucks moving it somewhere else. So
I understand.
whether that's for or against, I'm not sure. But
That's okay, Mr. Sears. Thank you for your comment. Yes, sir. Anyone else? Anyone that would come forward and speak for or against this item, please come forward. I'm going to move very quickly, folks. We've got a lot to cover. So if there is no one else, I'll close the public hearing. We'll come back on Monday and take up item B for a vote. Item C. Hold a public hearing and consider a request for a change in zoning from R2 Single Family Residential Detached to LI Light Industrial District for 14.54 acres on Westmoreland Plaza in Land Lot 903, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 5. Application by Euphoric Development 5, LLC. Ms. Williams?
All right, Patrice Williams, Community Development Director. The applicant's request is to develop a warehouse e-commerce distribution center. The preliminary site plan provided by the applicant shows a relatively small warehouse facility totaling 170,720 square feet. It is anticipated that the proposed facility will result in an increase in traffic. However, due to the scale and scope of the proposed facility, a traffic study was not required. While there is a residential area near the subject property, there is no street access to the residential property from the proposed development. There are light industrial land uses in proximity of the subject property. If approved, the truck receiving area and loading bays should be designed facing away from the residential land use to north and west of the subject property. Developers should make modest aesthetic improvements along the frontage of Westmoreland Plaza and reinforce buffer on northern and western property boundaries adjacent to residential uses with heavy vegetation.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Is the applicant present?
The
If
applicant
so,
is with us tonight.
all right, come forward. As you've heard the drill already, sir, if you give us your name and address for the record, we would love to hear from you.
Yes, sir. It's good to be with y'all this evening. I'm Fred Bentley Jr. with Bentley from over in Marietta. I'm an old county attorney from Cobb County and been involved in the zoning arena. So it's great to be in front of you this evening. I've just finished helping Paulding County rewrite a lot of their zoning ordinances and development standards. So I appreciate the efforts that y'all put forth. So thank you for your service. Tonight, I'm here to represent Euphoric Development. I have the two principals of that group, Austin Brannon and my son, Matt Bentley. So it's very few times you actually get a chance to work for your son. So I'm kind of liking that. Again, as was mentioned by Ms. Patrice, it's 170,727 square feet. It is designed in such a way that it meets all of your requirements with the exception of a contemporaneous thing for the parking, although there is ample room on the parking pad to redesign, to provide for parking. But since there might be a flex use as it relates to this, it's anticipated to be a Fortune 500 type company that would use it for a smaller type of distribution. It's located off Westmoreland Plaza, which is already an industrial area. As was mentioned, there are no connectivity to the subdivision to the north. There is industrial that is to the to the south and the west of this. It backs up to I-20, so that would be one of the views. It's actually, if you run down Westmoreland Plaza, and if you just keep going straight ahead, you're going to run into the property. So it's certainly something that would have some use. That your professional staff vetted this project and recommended in favor of it, as did your planning staff after we appeared at the last meeting. It is obviously something that's 14.54 acres. I do have a visual that I could hand out to y'all that I think might show you what it would look like. Would that be all right?
We have something on our laptops. I'm not certain if it's the exact same thing the city.
Do y'all have?
The city manager will take it. Thank you, Mr. Bentley.
Thank you. You're welcome. And I also have the site plan.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Again, this has gone through the vetting. I think they're very serious about moving forward with this. These two have developed another venture very similar to this if you wanted to see that. And of course, they could certainly talk to you about that. But this has been something that they have worked on, and they're, I mentioned Brannon. It's part of Brannon Goddard, which is a nationally known group that's involved in this, and they bring first quality tenants to areas. It is very close to the interstate, which is the nicest thing. It's going to run through an industrial area. As I call it, it's kind of the salmon-colored area that's already set up like that. So with that, I will answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir.
Questions of council, Madam Mayor, anyone? Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem had raised his hand first. I'll
Go, Mayor Pro
acknowledge him
Tem.
first. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess my question right now is directed more towards staff, and I'm kind of curious. It's a semi-rhetorical question, but not entirely. This is kind of a major change to go from residential to industrial. And I guess what I'm wondering is, what was our criteria for zoning this property residential to begin with? What did we see in the potential development of this property that we would have originally considered it for residential development, and then now we change it to industrial? I mean, that's kind of a big change. And I don't know if you can answer the question or not, but I'll give you a shot.
I really can't answer it. It was already done that prior to any of us arriving, so I'm not really sure if there was a plan in place.
Okay.
Just because it was undeveloped, that's how it was.
Okay.
Residential. Because there's other residential property in that area.
Right.
And things may have just changed with the future land over time.
I mean, I know when we put the UDO together, I mean, there was sort of a theme and an idea behind it and a strategy, and so whenever we go from something that broad of a change, it seems to me that there's really got to be a good reason for it, or something that we didn't see previously. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Madam Mayor?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Bentley, for presenting to us this evening. I have received some opposition from the citizens who live in Somerset subdivision, and I guess I can understand in that subdivision, there's one way in and one way out. I believe it's R4, a nice family subdivision.
Yes,
and so you said that you had buffers on the northern and western part of your development, and it's a Fortune 500 company tenants that would come in and do distribution. So it isn't heavily trucks, I mean, because they're already facing, abutting I-20. And so if you have that noise from probably lull you to sleep, like some people in New York listen to different noise or the tracks, would there be truck traffic in addition to traffic on the highway on I-20?
Well, I think one of the things that would be noted is that the staging of the traffic with the photographs that we passed out would be on the side away from. So you're actually going to have a building that will separate, so they shouldn't be hearing much of that noise. It should be deflected into the building itself. The bays would be to the I-20 side, and then perhaps a little bit on the one side. So it should cut that down. And then, of course, the street is the same street that the industrial is already using.
Right.
So, again, if you had to find a perfect place to perhaps locate something where you got the interstate on one side and then you have industrial surrounding it, this probably comes about as close as you're going to find in terms of trying to coexist within communities.
Okay. And so it's like going down there by the hotel and Jackson
That's
Music
correct.
used to be.
That would be
and you
exactly
just
where they go
continue.
right out. That's
Yes.
correct.
And so, okay.
Yes,
I was
ma'am.
just trying to, and we said the same thing, I guess, at Tributary in that area, but they're at night or early in the morning, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, if a truck comes in and they're making noise, backing up into a bay, it can be intrusive on
Yes,
the
ma'am.
citizens that live in the area.
Well, the nice thing about this one is where they're going to back up, there's going to be an entire 20-some-odd tall building, plus you've got the buffer to the north of that 100-foot buffer that's between the two, with the only thing that might be there is if the fire people were to require some minor road around that side. But again, that's not for any truck traffic, it is for emergency vehicles exclusively.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. Thank
Yes,
you,
ma'am.
Mr. Chairman.
Any other comment from council?
Yes, Chairman Adams, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Bentley, for your presentation. So I did drive the route. So I drove off of Fairburn Road, taking a right on to Westmoreland, first Cherokee. So on Cherokee Boulevard, there's a sign that already says no truck traffic. So I'm assuming the trucks will come from Fairburn Road, only from Fairburn Road, and make that right into Westmoreland. Is that correct?
That's my understanding. That's, I think, the way they have to get there.
Yeah, and the way they have to get out, obviously, because that's all residential, going past Christ Abundant Life Church on the right, and there are no truck signs all the way down Cherokee.
But trucks are there all the time. They get tickets constantly.
They are, and also they're, unfortunately, and this is not onto you, Mr. Bentley, haven't even built the site yet.
Thank you, ma'am.
But trucks also park in the church parking lot, which they've had complaints about that, and then the damage of the road. My concern and my question, I just want, if I heard you correctly, are you stating there will be a buffer behind the subdivision, but is that where the trucks will dock?
No, ma'am. And I apologize the way it.
Could I interject here, Mr. Bentley? And I think I can help. I think I can
Thank
help
you.
Dr. Danley. On page number 29 of our attachment, it shows the site plan with the proposed warehouse. If you will look at the top of that where it intersects the residential area, you'll see that there's a 100-foot building setback line. I believe that is, if this were approved, you'd have 100 feet required between the residential property line and the building. And of that, 50 feet would have to be a landscape buffer for buffering of those connections. And also, just for clarity while you're there, maybe this will help too. The parking, as you can see, is on the left side if you're facing it, which abuts industrial. And the trucks would then, and this is not drawn on the site plan, at least not to where there are any bay doors or anything shown, but it would appear then that the trucks would enter and exit backing up at the I-20 side, backing to the north into the end of the building. So the trucks would never be on the backside abutting the residential.
Right, right. So there would just be one way in and one way out.
That's correct.
That's it.
Okay, because on the opposite side from Cherokee Boulevard, taking a right where the church is, it's all residential as well, and it's dead
They'll
end.
go
So-
right past the hotels and.
Right, and there used
And
to be
that's
a
all
crack-
residential. You're correct,
That's
Ms.
correct.
Burdani.
Right, right.
Yes,
So,
yes, ma'am.
right. So for
Yes.
emergency vehicles, it would still have to be the one way on Westmoreland. Yes.
One way on Westmoreland.
Right. If there was an emergency, the emergency vehicles too would have to enter onto Westmoreland.
Yes, that's the only way in and out. There's one
Right.
way in and out of there. I grew up in that area, so I'm very familiar with it. And there's only one way in now that the new road is constructed up Cherokee, right onto Westmoreland. It dead ends into this property. So there's no other way to go. And there's no other residential that is accessed, it's my understanding, from Westmoreland. It's all commercial and industrial.
So the residential concerns that were brought to my attention were the sound, so there's a barrier, but also the trucks entering on Westmoreland, also they enter onto Cherokee Boulevard.
Right.
So that was the concern, and there's a no truck sign right there on Cherokee.
Yes,
Any
sir.
others? One thing that I would mention here, Mr. Bentley, just because I am familiar with the site, is the fact that there has to be a no truck sign, I'm assuming, on Cherokee as you would travel north
Right.
past Westmoreland. But since Westmoreland has some industrial zone property on it, it has to have truck access onto Westmoreland. I'm assuming, and I don't know about where exactly the no truck sign is, but I've heard that comment also. And the fact is, once you leave Westmoreland, you're not supposed to turn right. As far as trucks, that should be autos only, and you'll have to come back to State Route 92.
Right, and the difficulty for a truck taking a left turn is that you have traffic coming out of the racetrack, and it's very difficult for
Yes.
those trucks to turn left. So
Yes.
they take a right,
Yes.
and they abuse the no truck sign. So
Okay.
that definitely will have to be looked at, just to make sure that it's enforced.
Right.
That trucks do not turn right.
Okay. I do
This is
have,
approved.
yes, Ms. Miller?
I was just going to, I believe part of that is also county road, so we'll probably have
It
to
is.
work with them on that as far as addressing any of those traffic issues and trucks being able to turn left right there. But I had a question about the buffer. Is there going to be a fence included in that?
I don't know that there were no plans to do that.
Okay.
I think it was to be whatever planted buffer would be
Right.
required.
I was just thinking with it being a residential subdivision there and children playing and possibly dogs out playing and then having, a warehouse on the other side with big trucks, it could potentially be a hazard.
Again,
Have
type
you
of-
guys talked with the residents over there at all?
We
To see
haven't
what they
been
might want.
contacted by any of the residents.
And they do have an HOA.
I understand. They haven't reached out to us. I mean, we've certainly met with staff and met with some of y'all, so.
Okay, okay. I mean, I certainly understand because that is already industrial down there. It is odd to me that it was zoned residential because I can't imagine too many people who would want to live that close
Yes, ma'am.
to the interstate. And possibly a big warehouse could even be a sound barrier for those residents in there. It could absorb some of the noise from the interstate as well. But I was concerned about possibly needing some type of fence in there just for safety.
Okay.
Okay.
They're saying okay.
Okay,
so.
that was all.
As long as I guess that can be maybe constructed up closer to where the edge of the property is to try to keep people from coming across.
Others? Question?
Chairman Adams, there may be residents on the call tonight.
I have them,
They
ma'am.
are not.
I have them, Dr. Danley. I have them.
Oh, okay.
When we get to the public input, I'll
Okay,
cover
all right.
that.
So they may be able to make arrangements to meet with the developer.
I did have a question, and I voiced this concern with staff, and it's just a question concerning your development plan, just far down the road. But
Yes, sir.
it seemed odd to me that you would have, I believe, if this does show an existing stream on the property, then you would have setbacks from the stream. How would you anticipate you're going to run your runoff from your parking lot into your retention pond when it's on the other side of the stream? That seems rather odd to me. If there's anyone in the group that would like to answer that, just as a preliminary question.
I actually have one of the principals here that hopefully can answer that question.
And then we will
I think you
get
filled
to.
out- Did you fill out one of the, Mr. Austin Brannon, who will.
Good evening, sir. If you give us your name and address for the record.
Hello, sure. My name's Austin Brannon with Euphoric Development, and I live at 829 Gordon's Drive, Atlanta, Georgia. So my understanding from our engineers, Paulson Mitchell, who we've done other projects with, I'm currently working on a project in Cobb County over off Thornton Road. With the elevations we have, we're able to get a permit. We actually, to get the detention pond on the other side of that creek, we've got to have an overpassing to be able to access the detention pond. So we'll have to go through the Army Corps of Engineers to get a permit to be able to run stormwater piping to be able to hit
Okay.
the elevation there.
It just seemed rather odd to me, but if you're working with the Army Corps of Engineers on that, that's fine. I just was just curious more than anything, if that was an oversight, and obviously it's not. You've all already handled that. Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
If there are no other questions that Council or Madam Mayor has, then I will open the floor for those that may be here in person, but I'm going to start with one that we have on the line. I understand a person that opposes, Ms. Shayla Johnson. She is no longer. She is present, okay. Ms. Johnson, we would invite you to start if you'd like. Since you're here in person, I was not aware it was virtual. I'm sorry.
May I have someone say come with me, please, that's here?
Ma'am, you'll be speaking to us.
I understand,
Okay.
but that way, because I know we're in the essence of time, that's the only reason I said that.
Could you give us your name and address for the record? And
Shayla
please,
Johnson, 5481 Summer Mill Road.
do you mind taking your mask off so we can understand you? Thank you.
5481 Summer Mill Road, Shayla Johnson.
Thank you.
I was just asking that, in the essence of time, those that are here from Somerset can just come on up, and we can just kind of do
Okay.
it all at the same time.
Not a problem.
So is that okay with the
Sure,
council?
as long as they have signed in and as long as they're willing to stand and speak and give us their
you
name and
hold
address
that,
for the
please?
record, we'd welcome that.
Okay, they want me to speak, okay. All right, so I am one of the residents that would be directly affected by this warehouse because it directly comes behind my house. I already hear I-20 as it is. We have the natural buffer, so it's not too loud, it's not intrusive, but at the same time, if you're adding a warehouse, I'm thinking of hearing beep, 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 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, as we've already stated. And also just people say, hey, what's going on? Throw this over here. A lot of different just internal noise that we'll be able to hear on our side. So it's not a lot of room right there that I feel that there will be enough to be a buffer. We already have the natural buffer, but that's just, when you're cutting down the trees, then you're also inviting different animals. We already seeing deers in our subdivision. So it's going to be bringing different wildlife into our subdivision as well. So just wanted to make sure that he's saying that he didn't want us to reach out. We didn't really even know till we received the letter. So at this point, we will be willing, as the homeowners that have already reached out, to meet with him. So if there's time to allow for that, we would love to have a conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Others that would be here to speak in opposition, please come forward. Do we have anyone that would speak in support of the application? The applicant has spoken. Anyone else?
Yes, please. My name's Matt Bentley, 1119 Drewsbury Court, Smyrna, Georgia. I'm also with Euphoric Development. And I just wanted to, first off, say we're happy to discuss anything that they would like to discuss. The other thing that I think is important to just kind of make sure that they fully understand is this is as mentioned before, a commercial and industrial road. There's no residential that comes off the road. And as far as the buffer is concerned, not only do you have a 100-foot buffer from the residential there, you also have what will be roughly a 35-foot building that will be 250 feet deep before you hit a vast majority of any of the truck parking and any of the noise. So not only are you talking about a 100-foot buffer, a potential fence, vegetation, but you're also talking about a 35-foot building that will be 250 feet deep that will protect them from that noise. That's very rare to have nearly 350 feet before you get to any noise, before you get to anything that's going to impact that neighborhood.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that input. Any others? Is there anyone else here to speak? Okay. I would encourage both those that are in opposition and the potential developer on this site to reach out to one another, maybe see if staff can help you to connect and see if you can come to some agreement as to at least hearing their concerns. Normally, I've got to say it, gentlemen, normally the developer would reach out to the homeowners association and to the homeowners in trying to get information out to them and to provide them with answers to their questions, even between meetings or prior to this meeting. Obviously, you've not been introduced to them, so I would hope that staff would be able to help you there. I would have a question or at least a comment, and I want us to consider this. We mentioned fencing, and I want us to be very careful in this. Ms. Miller had mentioned potentially a fence. I'm curious as to, of course, how much property will have to be disturbed before we condition this, if we do, with a fence. How much property is going to have to be disturbed in order to get to that fence? How much is going to have to be disturbed in order to install that fence? I know that we have in the past years gotten in situations where we required a fence, and then we were almost really wished that we had not because of what had to be done in order to get that fence there. Okay, so I guess my question there or my comment there would be, would it be better to have that additional space left in a natural buffer of woods, or do you take down a certain amount of woods in order to put up a fence or require a fence to be put in place? Which is the better buffer? Yeah. Okay, that's my only comment and question there, because from a developer standpoint, it's a lot of work in it. From a resident standpoint, they may prefer to have the trees than they do potentially a fence that may have trees fall on it, have to be constantly repaired, maintained, and looked upon by those neighbors also. So I just throw that out only because of our experience in the past with requiring fences. Okay?
Makes a lot of sense.
Any other comment or question?
Yes, Chairman Adams,
Yes.
I just want to echo what you stated about the residents and the developer getting together. We have had really great success with our developers meeting with the residents. I think it would be a win-win for both of you if you can meet and talk.
Thank you, Dr. Danley. That's great, and I appreciate you saying that because we have had a lot of success in doing that of late. If there's no one else here to speak concerning this, anything else the applicant would like to say? Do we still have time, Madam Clerk?
We have no more time for speakers.
Okay. Then we will close this portion of the public hearing, and we will come back to it on Monday, and we appreciate you all coming in.
Thank you.
Item D, consider a petition to annex 1.67 acres at 800 Maxim Road in Land Lot 522, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 3. Application by Daniel J. Tolman. Ms. Williams?
Patrice Williams, Community Development Director. Both item D and E are together. The first one is the annexation. The applicant is requesting to annex 1.67 acres at 800 Maxim Road and to rezone the property from office institutional with conditions county to general commercial district city. The surrounding land uses are PUD to the north, west and south, which are in the county, and LI to the east in the city. The land was originally dedicated for a fire station. The applicant's narrative states that the proposed development would be for a liquor store. The current property is undeveloped. There are no other liquor stores within 2,500 feet of the proposed development. I do have the applicants with me.
Okay. Would the applicant like to make a statement? Please come forward.
Evening, one. Joe Fowler, Post Office Box 49, Douglasville. Let me introduce Mr. Arpit Patel, who is the applicant for this zoning request. Got a recommendation of approval from P&Z. As you heard, it's an application both annexation and rezoning. It's 1.6718 acres, 800 Maxim Road. The purpose of the rezoning is for alcohol sales. They'll construct a building of 8,750 square feet. The property is currently owned by Dr. Daniel Tolman, who's a doctor in the community who bought the land on December the 19th, 2007 from the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. The property had been deeded to the county in 1999 by Industrial Developments International, that's IDI, who was developing the industrial park in which this 1.6 acres is located. That property had been donated to the county by IDI at that time for the purpose, as Patrice mentioned, to develop a fire station. 8 years later, the Board of Commissioners decided that the fire station needed to be put at a different location, so it was placed up on South Sweetwater Road in Lithia, just up from the Ace Hardware over there. So, since 2007, the property has been zoned commercially. It's been available for sale, but no activity whatsoever. It's actually, as you know, bounded on the north across Skyview by an industrial building of 312,000 square feet on 19 acres. On the east by an industrial building of 284,000 square feet on 15 acres. On the west by an industrial building of 222,000 square feet on 11 acres. In fact, within a quarter of a mile of this 1.6 acres, there are 11 industrial buildings, counting the 4 that I just mentioned, and there's another industrial building just to the east that the council recently approved. The property appears to be suitable for a commercial use. The staff has recommended approval. In fact, the staff found that the, and I'm quoting, rezoning of the subject property to general commercial will not have an impact on the area. In fact, the staff noted that the rezoning will be an enhancement to the area. The applicant's here if you got any questions. That's our presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler.
Thank you.
Anyone have questions? Yes, Coach Watts.
Yes, sir. Mr. Fowler or whoever can answer this, why the annexation? Why could they not, why do they have to be annexed to develop it the way they want to develop it and not develop it in the county?
The sales proposed are not permitted in the county.
I'm sorry?
The sales proposed are not permitted in the county.
Right.
The county.
In the county.
So retail package of liquor is not allowed in the county. It must be in the city.
Okay. And just for the sake of discussion, how many liquor stores do we now have in the city limits? Okay, we can talk, bring that up Monday. Yes. Okay. So the county says no as far as this type of development.
It's not allowable. Are you looking for just specifically package stores, Councilman Watts?
I was just curious. Yes, ma'am. So anyway, that's all I had, Mr. Chair.
Others? Yes, Madam Mayor, go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. It was kind of in the same line of questions that Councilman Watts asked, and I understand you want to move into the city because the county doesn't allow what you want to sell. So the area, Ms. Patrice, you did say was 25 feet, or how many?
That's required. It has to be 2,500 feet away from the nearest liquor store.
Aren't there service stations with food marts near that area that sell alcohol?
So there are other areas, yeah, within that area, but it's 2,500 feet. I don't think it's very bright.
Thank you so much. You can come forward and give your name and address for the record. It's good to see you,
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Anderson.
Brian Anderson, 6701 Church Street. The code states that it has to be a minimum of 2,500 feet from the next liquor store. A convenience store really doesn't count. They don't sell liquor. And the closest liquor store to that location is like 0.8 of a mile.
Beer and wine isn't liquor. That's not.
No, ma'am.
They are
It's
different.
not considered hard liquor.
Spirituous.
Yeah, spirits, yeah. So they met the minimum requirements for a liquor store at that location.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. I think Dr. LaShun Danley was next.
Yes, is the location, I'm looking at Skyview, is it on the side where Mercer University used to be, the building? Or is it on the other side where Walgreens and I think Crystal's, Popeyes?
Exit I-20, go north on Thornton Road, turn left onto Skyview, and it's on the
Right there,
left.
okay.
Just beyond the old, almost 400,000 square foot Nioxin building. Where Skyview comes around,
Yes,
it intersects there.
right, okay. Yeah, I think that was Mercer, it's no longer on that side, thank you. Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Davis.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm asking Ms. Fowler, would it be like a little strip, would anything else be housed in that?
Just a single building.
Just single, okay. Right there off Skyview? It's good place.
Mr. Davis, actually, it's on the corner of Maxim and Skyview. And there's a red light there. I believe there is a red light there, a traffic
I
signal.
know
there.
exactly where it's located.
Yes. It's the only corner that's not really occupied. Anyone else? Questions, comments? Okay. Thank you all. We will take up the next item. I'm assuming you'll stay in place. Item E, hold a public hearing and consider a request for a change in zoning from OIC Office Institutional with conditions in the county to GC General Commercial District City for 1.67 acres, 800 Maxim Road, land lot 522, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 3, application by Arpit Kumar Patel, and I apologize for the pronunciation. Ms. Williams?
All right, Joe just left, but that is his item as well, so this is the rezoning. We pretty much covered it.
Okay. So Joe is representing, Mr. Fowler was representing the applicant. Is there anyone else here that would want to speak? Okay. Did the applicant want to have something to say or have something, comment about the application?
No, so nothing else to add with respect to that. My presentation was both for the annexation and the rezoning.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Are there any questions or comments of council or mayor further?
Well, I'll just piggyback on what I said before. You know, I'm just, you know, I know we have a number of liquor stores within the city limits, and the county does not allow package sale. And, you know, I don't understand that totally, but that's what they've got set up, and so I would be interested to see just how many package stores. And I understand the 2,500 feet. I'm assuming there's no churches or schools anywhere near that particular corner. I'm trying to picture it, I can't, but anyway, just be interested in the information, more information on Monday. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. This being a public hearing, I need to give opportunity for anyone to speak either for or against. So if there is someone here that would like to do that in person, we do not have anyone on virtual, correct, Ms. Jackson? Okay. Good evening, Mr. Siegel.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Richard Siegel, 9905 Ashford Greenway. I stand before you to speak in favor of this application. It meets all of the requirements in your ordinances. Nowhere near any schools or churches or even residential. It's a little island surrounded by industrial buildings. It's great use for it. You're not going to have an office building there. You're not going to have a fire station there. It meets the distance requirement from the closest package store. As the population grows, your market grows. Population is growing. Your ordinance does not restrict the number of package stores in the city. Your ordinance does not say so many package stores per population. Those would be obstructive to free enterprise. So it's a good thing that it's not in there. This is a great use for this. You're not going to have pedestrians walking by on their way to church or on their way to school either. So it's isolated industrial, there's not a lot of uses you can put there. You just got trees right now. So I'm in favor of this. And in terms of the county, all counties started off default as dry in the state of Georgia. The state differentiates between beer, what they call malt beverages, wine, and spirituous liquor. 3 different categories. They've got different sections of code. Even your ordinance has 3 different sections on them. In order for a county to become wet, they have to have a referendum. The county of Douglas has never had a referendum, as far as I know, for package stores. To get on the ballot, it would require petition signatures of up to 35. It would be 35% of the registered voters would have to get that. Actually, I take that back. Last week, the governor signed a bill. Now it's only 20% petition. That's still impossible. But there was another part of that bill that allows them, at their own initiative, the Board of Commissioners can put it on the ballot. So if that happens and the people of Douglas County pass it, you will see no more applications for annexations for package stores because they'll be able to do it in the county. And there's a lot of territory in the county where they can put it. It's a much bigger county than it is, 200 square miles. So you may see an end to that. When the Board of Commissioners discuss, I don't see a timer up there. When the Board of Commissioners discussed this application, they even said, why can't we have it in the county? Why does it have to go into the city? So that's a thing that a lot of people don't realize, don't understand. It'll probably be on the ballot next year. So yes, summing that up, I am in favor of this application. So thank you for your consideration. And if you have any questions, you want to talk to me about this after the meeting, it is a topic that I'm well versed in. So bid you good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Siegel. Others? Anyone else here to speak?
Spoken like a former council member.
Anyone else would like to speak either for or against this item? Please come forward. If not, I will close the public hearing then on item E, and we'll take this up on Monday.
Okay.
We'll go to item F. Consider a petition to annex 1.17 acres at 991 Thornton Road, land lot 582, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 2. Application by Ashish Patel, Shadriha Patel, Ramhai Patel, and Rushpa Patel. Ms. Williams?
Okay, Patrice Williams, Community Development Director. Both F and G go together. I do have the applicants with us. They're going to do a presentation. The applicant is requesting to annex 1.17 acres at 991 Thornton Road and to rezone the property from heavy commercial county to general commercial district city. The surrounding land uses are CG to the north and west in the county, general commercial to the south in the city, and PUD to the east in the county. The purpose of this request is to develop a liquor store as well. The current property is undeveloped. There are no other liquor stores within 2,500 feet of the proposed development.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Would the applicant come forward and make their presentation, please?
Good evening. For the record, my name is Parks Huff for the law firm of Sams Larkin and Huff, 376 Powder Spring Street, Marietta, Georgia, 30064. And I represent the Patels in relation to the annexation or rezoning. And I'm going to combine the presentation and then separate out some of the issues. First off, I'd like to introduce Mr. Patel, their father and son. It's great to be able to represent a family business that they're working together as a family. And they all 4 owners live in Douglasville. They have 3 other businesses in Douglasville. They own some hotels in the city. And so they are city residents, business owners, and they own this property that sits at the intersection of Thornton Road and State Route 20. I-20. And so you all know the property I'm talking about. It's right next to the Burger King that's under redevelopment or remodeling right now. And so it's that last commercial parcel just before the interstate. It obviously has, one of the challenges is the fact that it has access issues. It's going to be limited by right in, right out. And so that's one of the challenges of what goes good at this location. It's an annexation for this property. The first question is, should it be in the city? And the answer is it's contiguous to the city. It is north of us is city also, so it makes sense that it should be in the city. The property is currently vacant. It's not producing any income for the city. Certainly it's not in the city, and minimal income for the county in terms of it doesn't have any use on it, doesn't have any employees, doesn't have any sales tax, any of that. So it'd be good to get this on the rolls producing stuff for the area. It is in a regional activity center. It sits, aerial view showing the property and showing the proximity to the interstate and the Burger King, commercial zoning around. So the first question, annex, should it be in the city or not in the city? It should be in the city. So the next question is, what's the appropriate zoning for the property? It's currently zoned commercial. We're asking for a city commercial designation. I don't think there's any other zoning designation other than commercial that would work on this property. It's not industrial, it's not office, it's not residential. So the zoning request is consistent with what you would expect to see here. And the planning staff, your professional staff, reviewed the application and recommended approval because they went through the criteria that they are required to go through in determining that it fits with your land use plan. It's a good development for the area, and in general, it just makes sense. So your professional staff in reviewing it said, we recommend approval. It went to the Planning Commission, and I do have to say it was recommended for denial, but I think because they were looking at the next step, which is the proposed use as a package store. And I asked, one thing I want, and to direct to your question is, yes, the county, and as the previous speaker spoke, the county does not allow spirituous liquors sell by package. So any package store in the county is going to be in the city. And so that's why we're asking to be annexed, is so that it can be developed as a package store. And one thing that I want you to consider in why that makes sense in this location is, one, you don't have any residential around it, you don't have any churches, you don't have any uses that would be in conflict with it. The other thing is that it is a use that doesn't have as much traffic. And one thing is, when you get real close to an interstate, sometimes you don't want a whole lot of traffic in and out. So a package store actually, rather than a very busy fast food restaurant that might have a lot in and out, actually has a proximity to the interstate, having a use that's general retail, happens to be liquor, but it's general retail, makes sense in this location. We're talking about, a commercial building that you would expect to see here. Now, the state law has a distance, the state law manages how package stores are handled, and then you have your local jurisdictions. State law mandates that package stores can be no closer than 1,500 feet from each other. So that's package stores. That doesn't count beer and wine, just spirituous package. The state law is 1,500 feet. Your ordinance has chosen to make that bigger, and it's 2,500 feet. I think your question is, should we look at other, is there other issues that we look at? Well, you've already looked at it one time, and you've decided the state law wasn't quite strict enough, so we've mandated that it's 2,500 feet. I just wanted this visual to affirm to you that the distance between these two, the previous application and this application, is much, much greater than the 2,500 feet. And it is also a different travel corridor. And in general, governments do not like to pick winners and losers and let the market decide that, who provides the best customer service, who provides the best location for their travel routes that they can get to, and those things. So this more than exceeds your distance requirement. And the other thing I do want to just mention is that you're not being asked tonight or on Monday night to make a decision on whether a package store is or is not approved in this location. You're being asked of, should it be annexed and should it be zoned commercially? Everyone who comes forward with a package store has to go through your process, has to meet all these criteria. And just for example, if a package store came in within 1,500 feet or 2,500 feet of this location between now and we came forward, they couldn't build it. It still has to meet your requirements. So you're not specifically asked to approve that. Just measured it just as the crow flies, just so you know that even as the crow flies, those distances are significant. This is the graphic that your staff prepared showing it. Again, your staff report did a really good job of explaining that the request is orderly and beneficial development. It will further the purpose of the comprehensive plan. And I know we live and die by the comprehensive plan. I hate when I've got an application that goes against a comprehensive plan because I have to come up with a lot stronger arguments, but it consistent with your comprehensive plan. And this is a retail corridor, so this general retail sales of products is what you would expect along this section of Thornton Road. And the zoning category is consistent. So we're actually zoning it from the CHC in the county to the GC in the city. And the staff, your professional staff that you pay to know how to handle zoning cases and understand these issues that come about has recommended approval. Again, just going back to it's vacant. It's not doing anything for anybody right here. You got 4 people who live in the city, who've got 3 successful businesses in the city, would like to have a 4th business in the city also. And this is the type of retail building that we're talking about. Again, it's a general retail building, single-use package store. So we ask that you approve this application on Monday night. I'm here to answer any questions you have. Mr. The Patels are here to also answer any questions you may have about the application. And I very much thank you for your time.
Thank you. Questions? Madam Mayor, do you have a question?
Yes, sir, I do. Thank you so much for the presentation, and we appreciate the Patels investing into the city of Douglasville and having businesses to help our economy to grow and to live in the community as well. I do have just a couple of concerns. I do understand the decision from the Planning Commission. It's just like you're getting engaged. You had to come before my father and ask. He presumed you were going to marry the person. So it's one thing that you're saying, but it really is in totality. It isn't just the general commercial and the annexation, but you want to have a package store there as well. And it just gives me pause for a package store to be on that corridor because you're coming in off of I-20 on Thornton Road, you're greeted with the package store. When you're leaving on Thornton by Maxim, there's another package store that we just talked about. And this one is, next door to Burger King, Taco Bell, Home Depot, a pediatric around the corner. So I'm not certain. The general commercial is great, but I'm not certain about this particular business because there's a perception, when you have just certain businesses that are all clumped together. Yeah. So we just like variety. That's all I'm saying. And then that seems like kind of a more of a restaurant, purchasing, like I said, Home Depot, medical offices, car dealerships, but not warehouses, enterprise rentals, but not a package store coming in and going out in the same stretch of the road. That's all the concerns I had.
Yeah, and I certainly appreciate those concerns, and I think a couple things is, number one is, that's why you have a 2,500-foot distance requirement, so that you aren't stacked on each other.
Yes,
and
sir.
These are removed on different routes. The one on Maxim Road's on Maxim Road, the further one up further on the right on Thornton Road. So they would be serving different traffic corridors. The other thing is the property's been vacant for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the challenges is one of the reasons why this use is being proposed here is the fact, I think if you put a really busy fast food restaurant in there, it might cause more of a headache, because of the congestion of in and out and the needs for left turn movements. Our customers will use this as a routine, and they will follow it where it's on their route. Obviously, they're going to have to turn right in and right out to go about their way. And so, but I think it could be considered a benefit that you don't have a high traffic business at this location. I think a lot of other businesses will require a medical office. They're going to want medical office is fanatical about access because a lot of their customers are sick or old, and they don't want to have to make any different turning movement. So they want to know how to get there from all directions. And this is one that would be serving a customer base that they would build over time.
Okay. And the other last thing is when you're saying that, it made me think about families and eating in those restaurants versus a package store where you have to be a certain age. So it's a different, kind of a different clientele as well.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I mean, it would be, you know, serving people who live in the area, who travel this corridor, and, you know, would be going in there, and it would, you know, their belief is that they will have a customer base they build up over time, and it's customer service. That's how these businesses are successful. And that's the reason why I wanted to show you. This is they've engaged an architect to provide architectural renderings of different projects, and if the project moves forward, they'll pick it. But it's a general retail building.
Yes, sir.
And so if this use did not work, it could be repurposed to a different general commercial use.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Mr. Davis?
Yes, sir. That property, that's the property next to the Burger King, Taco Max, Taco Bell?
Yeah.
Okay, that traffic is truck traffic. That's a heavy traveling Thornton Road. Trucks up and down that road all the time.
Yep.
And have a hard time coming out of Burger King, getting on Thornton Road. So right there in that hole in there, that's going to be tough.
Yeah, they'll have to meet all the DOT requirements on building their driveway. You know, it would be, if I could wave a magic wand, it'd be nice to have interparcel access and coordinated driveways. Unfortunately, this parcel doesn't have that. So, you know, and again, I go back to that, really the kind of minimal traffic that this type of use could be considered an advantage for this type of use.
I don't know. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make sure I understood. Also, the property seems to be an island. There's no actual city property touching it. So I guess the contiguity is based on the city property across the interstate, is that
Correct.
true?
Yes, it is. And I do, you know, I mean, one of the things that if that was our only contiguity, only proximity, you know, but the city, as the previous case shows, the city also wraps around north and comes back. So, I mean, city's all around it. But yes, you're right. Our direct contiguity is across the interstate to the south.
Thank you. That's all, sir.
Mr. Estes?
And I'm having trouble locating it right now, but I seem to remember that this parcel has been not having any use for over 20 years.
Yes, that's my understanding. And my client recently purchased it, and the property's been for sale for a long time. And
So if there was some desire for a medical office facility or something else, there's been ample time to do that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comment? I'm going to move along here. We have spent a lot of time. Any other question, comment? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
We will move to the next item, which is connected, and we'll take this up on Monday. Item G, hold a public hearing for a change in zoning from CH Heavy Commercial County to GC General Commercial District City for 1.17 acres at 991 Thornton Road, land lot 582, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 2. Application by Ashish Patel. Ms. Williams?
Patrice Williams, this is just the rezoning item that we have to have the public hearing for tonight as well.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Williams. Does the applicant have anything to add to new information, please? Not repetitive. No. Thank you. I'll open the public hearing. Are there questions or comments that the council or Madam Mayor may have in addition to those that we have asked? Is there anyone here that would speak either for or against the application? Please come forward and identify yourself for us. Seeing none, we'll close that portion of the public hearing. You all understand the issues at hand, and we will take this up on Monday. Okay? Thank you all. Appreciate it very much. We'll move on to item H. Hold a public hearing and consider a request for change in zoning from GC General Commercial District and PRD Planned Residential Development District to PRD Planned Residential Development District for 6.04 acres on Dearly Lane, land lot 50, District 1, Section 5, Parcel 72 and 120. Application by Mr. P.J. Hornick, Southport Financial Real Estate, LLC. Ms. Williams.
Oops, I'm so sorry. I don't have my notes in front of me.
All right.
There we go. All right. The applicant is requesting to rezone from general commercial and planned residential district to planned resident development district. The subject properties are 2 lots that are 4.95 acres and 1.09 acres. The applicant has also requested a right-of-way abandonment from the city for 0.039 acres. A portion of the subject property was recently rezoned from general commercial to planned residential development. This parcel is the 4% that we discussed earlier. The applicant proposes an affordable retirement community for seniors age 55 and plus. The property is currently undeveloped and is surrounded by commercial, light industrial, and multifamily residential. The applicant is proposing a 119-unit residential development that consists of 1 3-story multifamily apartment building. The site plan shows a gated entry and open green space to the west corner. The 4.95-acre parcel 120 site and the excess right-of-way have not been developed. The parcel 0072 has been a single-family residence since 1961, and it has been vacant for a number of years.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Applicant, please come forward if you'd like to make opening comments. How are you, Mr. Hornick?
Hi, I'm PJ Hornick with Southport Financial Real Estate, 5403 West Gray Street, Tampa, Florida, 33609. Well, thank you for having me again here tonight. I'm pleased to present our updated plan for the senior multifamily development at Durley Lane. Tonight, I'm going to cover a similar agenda as we did last time around, which was last July, for the parcel that we've already zoned for 98 units. And really focus on the technical updates that we're working on for the updated plan. With that, I'll reintroduce Southport as the developer and long-term owner here, speak a little bit about our previous developments, visit the site location and why it's ideal for this use, and then conclude with any questions or comments you folks may have. So Southport, we are a experienced multifamily developer. Our principal, David Page, has been in real estate since the mid-'70s. He founded Southport in the mid-'90s, and we've since grown into an integrated full-service real estate firm focused on development, construction, and long-term property management. We have about 20,000 units nationally, 200 properties with several in Georgia, Dalton, Athens, St. Mary's, and Tifton. You could feel free to visit our website, and it'll show up-to-date developments that we have in process, which is about 10 currently. Some of the featured developments I'd like to call your attention to is Pembroke Towers, which we're planning new construction, 88 units for seniors in South Florida. Laburnum Gardens was a family ground-up development that we completed last year outside Tampa. Brookstone is 108 units of senior that we did in Tallahassee, Florida, with the same architect, Mike Riley, that we have engaged on this proposed development. And then Burlington Senior was a property we completed in downtown St. Pete in 2010. So to the site location, again, it's ideally located because it's infill suburban development, and you've got plenty of amenities nearby that really make it ideal. Most importantly, the senior center, Woody Fight, directly to the south of us. We're on Durley Lane, south of 92, north of Doris Road. So we would abut to the multifamily directly behind to the west. Again, the south is the Woody Fight Senior Center. Across the street from that is the Park and Ride. And then north of that is general commercial, including a pharmacy and a planned grocery store. So this is the previous plan that is currently approved on the approximately 5 acres for 98 units. And really the nexus of what the updated plan is feedback from both the staff and then the general review of this proposal, which is, if you could see to the northeast corner of the site, there's that notch out of the property, and then the building is oriented somewhat awkwardly against Durley Lane. So with the assemblage, what we've done is brought in the corner site and then turned the building to orient along Durley Lane. So it really does enhance the site itself and then also the block by getting rid of the 1960s built single-family home that's currently there. And with that, I would conclude and open the floor up for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hornick. Madam Mayor, questions?
I did
Go
have
ahead.
a quick question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much for presenting, Mr. Horton. I did have I think we talked about a walking trail or something from your facility to Woody Fight. Is that proposed in here? Or you're not talking about that right now? You're just talking about the
Well,
facility?
we're happy to talk about it. I mean, that's an amenity we would propose, and if you could see there, the old plan has it, but really, if you see that pedestrian path out to the sidewalk, we would come out on the southeast corner of the site, go down the sidewalk, and then propose a pedestrian path up to the Woody Fight Center. So it's,
And this is the 4%, correct? Ms. Patrice, that we talked about earlier. And the amenities. What were the amenities?
so we currently have planned a gazebo, an outdoor activity center, a garden, and then indoor, we would have a community room and a kitchen area. And then walking trail, the nature walking trail.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much. That's all I have.
Sure. Others? Yes, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate what you did with the site plan. I like that you brought it up to the street like the way you did. You got rid of that